Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk for a moment about a pattern that many people fall into, one that often leads to confusion, frustration, and disappointment in relationships. It goes something like this: someone pulls away, withdraws emotionally, and then expects you to chase them, to fight for their attention, their affection, their approval. When you don't respond in the way they desire, they get angry, resentful, or even punish you with further withdrawal. This dynamic is not only deeply unhealthy, it's also destructive not just to the relationship, but to your sense of self. Here's the first point: the foundation of a healthy relationship is not dependence, but mutual respect and autonomy. When someone pulls away, it's an opportunity for both people to reflect on their own needs, their own emotions, and their own boundaries. If you immediately jump to chase after them, what you are doing, whether consciously or unconsciously, is allowing the other person to dictate your emotional landscape. You forgo your own sense of worth for someone who is pulled away. Why should you chase someone who is not willing to meet you halfway? Let me clarify something important here. Emotional manipulation is real. Sometimes people engage in these games, pulling away to see if the other person will chase them, often with the expectation that it's a sign of love, of value, of desire. But in reality, it's not love. It's insecurity masquerading as power. It's a way for someone to test how much they can affect your emotional state, often without considering the consequences for your mental health. You see, when you chase someone who isn't available, when you desperately try to pull them back in, you are compromising your own autonomy. You are telling yourself that you are not enough as you are, that your value depends entirely on someone else's fluctuating mood or whims. And this, my friends, is a recipe for disaster. Boundaries are crucial. Every relationship requires boundaries. Without them, you risk becoming emotionally entangled in a web of manipulation, self-doubt, and resentment. If someone pulls away and expects you to chase them, it's essential to establish a boundary. Do not engage in the emotional dance of chasing. Stand firm in your own emotional truth. This doesn't mean you reject the person, but rather you protect your own emotional landscape and refuse to be controlled by someone's inconsistencies. And yet, when we talk about boundaries, we cannot ignore the critical need for accountability. Both parties must take responsibility for their actions. If someone pulls away, they need to recognize that their behavior has consequences. It's not just about whether you chase them or not. It's about why they are pulling away in the first place and why they expect a particular reaction. When people expect others to chase them, they may be avoiding confronting their own feelings, their own vulnerabilities. Acting with integrity is key in any relationship. Integrity means responding with clarity, not reacting from a place of fear, desperation, or insecurity. Responding means maintaining your sense of self, regardless of the other person's emotional state. It's about upholding your values and not allowing the manipulative game of emotional withdrawal to dictate how you behave. It's important to recognize the gap between expectations and reality. There's an idea that love is about constant pursuit, that it's a game of catching the other person's attention. But love, true love, is about connection that is built on mutual respect, honesty, and clear communication, not on playing games. And when you stop chasing, you make space for a deeper and more meaningful connection, one that's not based on manipulation or the desire for control. When we talk about empathy, we must remember that understanding both our emotions and the emotions of others is essential. Emotional regulation is something we all must practice, not just for our own well-being, but for the well-being of the relationships we're involved in. If someone pulls away, try to understand why. But that understanding doesn't mean giving in to emotional manipulation. It means having the strength to regulate your own response, and sometimes that response is to simply walk away. And most importantly, respecting others' agency is essential. Relationships are not about ownership. People have the right to choose to engage or disengage, just as you have the right to do the same. When someone pulls away, respect their decision, but don't make it yours. Maintain your independence. Your sense of self should not be contingent on someone else's availability or affection. Let's talk about personal growth. Every situation, every interaction is an opportunity for self-reflection. If you find yourself chasing someone who keeps pulling away, ask yourself why. What's driving this? Why are you so invested in this particular dynamic? Use these insights for growth. Understand yourself better, learn to be more self-reliant, and stop looking to others to validate your worth. So the next time someone pulls away and expects you to chase them, remember this: you deserve more. You deserve respect, honesty, and integrity in your relationships. Don't sacrifice your autonomy. Don't play the game. Stand firm. Honor your boundaries and know that you are enough as you are, without needing to chase anyone's approval. Self-respect and autonomy are the bedrock of a fulfilling life and healthy relationships. They are the foundation upon which we build our understanding of who we are and what we are willing to tolerate from others. When we hold on to our self-respect, we are acknowledging our intrinsic worth as individuals. This means understanding that we are valuable not because of the approval or attention of others, but because of our own inherent qualities, principles, and integrity. Autonomy goes hand in hand with self-respect. It's the ability to make choices for yourself, to guide your own life according to your values and beliefs, free from the influence of others who might try to control or manipulate your decisions. In relationships, this becomes particularly important. If we allow ourselves to be constantly swayed by the moods, desires, and whims of others, we risk losing ourselves in the process. We might find ourselves bending, compromising, or sacrificing our needs in an attempt to gain affection or approval. This, however, is a dangerous path. Maintaining autonomy means recognizing when a relationship or situation is diminishing your self-respect. It's about being aware enough to walk away from toxic dynamics that force you to compromise who you are. It means understanding that your worth isn't defined by someone else's opinion or actions. You do not need to chase after someone's affection or attention if it requires you to abandon your own dignity. Autonomy allows you to live in alignment with your true self, regardless of external pressures, knowing that you are in control of your life and decisions. This is especially crucial when faced with emotional manipulation, or when someone tries to pull away in a relationship, testing whether you will chase them. Such behavior is not only disrespectful to your autonomy, but also undermines your self-respect. By choosing to not chase after someone who is playing these emotional games, you are affirming your own worth. You are communicating to both yourself and others that you will not be swayed by manipulative behavior, and that you value yourself too much to play games that diminish your dignity. In short, self-respect and autonomy form the core of how we relate to the world and others. They empower us to make healthy, informed decisions and to protect our emotional well-being, regardless of what others may do or expect. Emotional games are subtle, often manipulative behaviors that individuals engage in to influence others' feelings, reactions, and decisions. They can take many forms, from playing hot and cold to using guilt or silence to provoke a response. The core of emotional games is control. One person tries to get the other to behave in a certain way, typically to fulfill their own emotional needs or to maintain a sense of power in the relationship. These games are rarely about genuine connection or mutual understanding. Instead, they are about navigating the relationship with an underlying motive of securing validation, affection, or dominance. At the heart of emotional games is insecurity. When someone feels uncertain about their own worth or value, they might resort to emotional manipulation to reaffirm that they are loved, desired, or important. For instance, a person might pull away in a relationship expecting the other person to chase them, as a way of testing their significance. They might withhold affection or attention, creating an emotional void that the other person feels compelled to fill. In doing so, the person engaging in the emotional game is not communicating their true needs, but rather attempting to provoke a reaction that confirms their value or importance. Such behavior is inherently unfair and damaging. It disrupts the foundation of healthy relationships, which should be based on mutual respect, honesty, and clear communication. Instead of openly addressing feelings of insecurity or longing, the person playing emotional games opts for indirect methods to manipulate their partner's emotions. This can lead to a toxic cycle. where one person is constantly trying to earn affection or attention, while the other manipulates the situation to meet their own emotional needs. One of the most insidious aspects of emotional games is that they often remain hidden beneath the surface. The person engaging in the manipulation may not even be consciously aware of what they're doing, or they may justify it by claiming they need reassurance or attention. The result, however, is always the same: confusion, frustration, and the erosion of trust. When someone plays emotional games, it becomes difficult to build an authentic relationship based on true understanding. Instead, you end up in a dynamic where one person is always guessing what the other wants or is attempting to interpret their mixed signals. This creates a toxic environment that undermines emotional security for both parties. The damage that emotional games can inflict is not limited to the direct participants. When someone manipulates another, it often comes at the expense of their own emotional growth and the growth of the relationship. Rather than fostering an environment where both individuals feel safe to express their true selves, emotional games build walls of defensiveness and doubt. It creates a situation where both parties feel as though they need to guard their emotions and behaviors out of fear of being played or hurt. Over time, this undermines any possibility of genuine intimacy or lasting connection. One of the key aspects of breaking free from emotional games is recognizing them for what they are. Awareness is the first step in reclaiming your own emotional health. When you see someone pulling away, for example, and expecting you to chase them, recognize that this is not a test of your love, but rather a test of your emotional vulnerability. It is a form of control that forces you into a position where you must prove yourself. Responding to these games only perpetuates them and reinforces the unhealthy dynamic. Instead, it's important to respond with clarity, setting boundaries and communicating your feelings without getting swept up in the cycle of manipulation. Emotional games are a way of avoiding direct communication and genuine emotional vulnerability. They are a mask for insecurity, a way of controlling others rather than fostering genuine connection. Healthy relationships, by contrast, require open communication, emotional honesty, and mutual respect. By stepping away from the emotional games and opting for clear, respectful communication, you can break the cycle of manipulation and create space for more authentic and fulfilling connections. Personal boundaries are essential to maintaining emotional and psychological well-being in any relationship, whether it's with family, friends, colleagues, or romantic partners. They define the limits we set for ourselves, determining what we are willing to accept or tolerate from others and what we are not. Boundaries are not about building walls to keep people out, but about creating a clear, healthy space between us and others where mutual respect and understanding can flourish. They allow us to preserve our sense of self, protect our emotional energy, and ensure that we don't lose our identity or well-being in the process of relating to others. One of the fundamental aspects of personal boundaries is knowing where your responsibility begins and ends. We cannot control the thoughts, feelings, or actions of others, but we are fully responsible for our own reactions, behavior, and emotional state. Boundaries help us maintain this distinction, ensuring that we do not take on the emotional burdens of others or allow ourselves to be manipulated or coerced into doing things that go against our values or well-being. They act as a safeguard against emotional burnout, resentment, and feelings of being taken advantage of. Setting personal boundaries is an act of self-care and self-respect. It is a clear message to both yourself and others that you value your needs, your time, and your emotions. Without boundaries, we risk overextending ourselves, either emotionally, physically, or mentally. This can happen in many forms, such as agreeing to take on responsibilities we don't have the capacity for, tolerating disrespectful behavior, or allowing others to infringe upon our time or energy without regard for our needs. When we fail to set boundaries, we become vulnerable to being overwhelmed, and we may start to feel like we are living for the benefit of others rather than for ourselves. Boundaries are not static, they evolve over time and may need to be adjusted depending on the circumstances of a relationship. What was acceptable at one point may no longer feel right at another. This is particularly true when we are dealing with emotional dynamics, as they shift and change based on our own growth and the evolution of the relationship. As we become more attuned to our needs and values, we might find that we need to set firmer boundaries or communicate them more clearly. This is not a sign of weakness or inflexibility, rather, it is an indication of emotional maturity and self-awareness. Healthy boundaries are dynamic, flexible, and adaptable, reflecting our ongoing understanding of our limits and priorities. Importantly, setting boundaries is not about controlling others or imposing rigid limitations. It is about being clear with others about what we are willing to accept in a relationship and what we are not. This communication can sometimes feel uncomfortable, especially when the boundaries we set are new or unfamiliar to those around us. People may push against these boundaries or attempt to violate them, either consciously or unconsciously. However, setting boundaries does not mean being unkind or dismissive of others' needs. It means recognizing that your needs are just as important and that a relationship must be built on mutual respect and consideration. In relationships where boundaries are not respected, emotional distress and confusion often follow. Without clear boundaries, one person might feel used, disrespected, or emotionally drained, while the other person may not even realize they have crossed a line. This lack of clarity leads to miscommunication, conflict, and resentment. However, when boundaries are communicated clearly and consistently, they foster trust and understanding. Both individuals know where they stand, what is acceptable, and what is not. This clarity allows relationships to grow in healthy, balanced ways where both people feel valued and respected. Enforcing boundaries also requires self-awareness and courage. It means being willing to stand up for your own needs, even when it feels uncomfortable or when others try to push past them. This can be especially difficult in relationships where there has been a history of blurred boundaries or where one person is accustomed to crossing the line. However, asserting your boundaries is a necessary act of self-respect, and it is essential for maintaining your emotional and mental well-being. The key is to communicate your boundaries clearly, calmly, and assertively without guilt or apology. The challenge in setting boundaries often comes from the fear of upsetting others or the fear of being perceived as selfish or rigid. But the reality is, boundaries are not selfish, they are protective. They ensure that both parties in a relationship can engage with each other in a way that is healthy, respectful, and nurturing. Boundaries are a way of protecting your emotional space so that you can engage with others authentically without losing yourself or compromising your values. Boundaries are not just about protecting ourselves from others, they also involve self-regulation and respect for our own limits. Learning to say no to protect our time and to refrain from overcommitting ourselves are all ways we assert boundaries within our own lives. This extends to our mental and emotional energy, ensuring that we do not allow toxic or draining thoughts to dominate our consciousness and that we create space for our own well-being. It's about learning to respect ourselves enough to prioritize our own emotional health, even when it means saying no to others or distancing ourselves from unhealthy dynamics. Personal boundaries are vital for living a life that is aligned with your values and emotional needs. They help us maintain our identity, protect our emotional well-being, and ensure that we engage in relationships from a place of respect and mutual understanding. Setting and enforcing boundaries is not always easy, but it is necessary for cultivating healthy, balanced relationships. When you honor your own limits and communicate them clearly, you not only protect yourself but also create an environment where others can understand and respect your needs, leading to more authentic, fulfilling connections. Accountability and responsibility are two deeply interconnected principles that form the backbone of personal integrity and the ability to navigate life effectively, especially in relationships. While they are often used interchangeably, they carry distinct meanings and offer unique benefits when embraced consciously. Both concepts demand an individual to stand firm in their actions, decisions, and their impact on the world around them. Accountability speaks to the recognition and ownership of one's actions, while responsibility is the duty to act with consideration for oneself and others. Together, they create a sense of clarity and ethical conduct in all areas of life. Accountability is about acknowledging the consequences of your actions, both good and bad. It's the willingness to stand up and say, I am responsible for this. This concept is deeply rooted in self-awareness. When you are accountable, You recognize the role you've played in shaping the outcomes of a situation, and you take ownership of your part, regardless of how the situation unfolded. It's an honest admission of your behavior, free from excuses, justifications, or shifting blame to others. Accountability requires the courage to face the truth, even when it's uncomfortable or difficult. It means taking responsibility for your mistakes and learning from them, instead of attempting to bury them or deflect the fault onto others. Taking accountability is particularly crucial in relationships. In any meaningful interaction, whether in personal, professional, or familial contexts, actions have consequences. If you hurt someone, fail to follow through on a promise, or act in a way that negatively affects another person, accountability means owning up to that impact. It doesn't mean simply apologizing or expressing regret. Although those actions are often necessary, it means taking the steps necessary to rectify the situation, ensuring that the same mistakes aren't repeated. Accountability builds trust, because when people see that you are willing to own your actions, they feel confident that you will act responsibly moving forward. It assures them that they can rely on you, that you are not someone who will duck responsibility when things go wrong. Responsibility, on the other hand, extends beyond accountability. It is the proactive aspect of personal growth and maturity. Responsibility means you don't wait for others to tell you what needs to be done. You act with intention, understanding that your choices have broader implications. It's the duty to look after your own well-being and to consider the impact of your actions on others. It is not just about doing what is necessary, but about doing what is right. It involves understanding your obligations to yourself and the people around you and meeting those obligations consistently. A person who embraces responsibility takes ownership not only for their actions, but for their reactions as well. For example, in a difficult conversation or conflict, you are responsible for how you respond, whether you react in anger or frustration, or whether you choose to remain calm and engage thoughtfully. Responsibility means recognizing that your emotional state is your responsibility, and that your actions, words, and energy can have a profound effect on the world around you. When you accept responsibility, you step into a place of empowerment. You no longer rely on external circumstances or others to dictate your behavior. You know that you have the capacity to act with integrity and to influence outcomes in a positive way simply by taking responsibility for your choices. One key area where accountability and responsibility come into play is in the realm of personal relationships. Healthy relationships require a balance of both. If one person consistently avoids accountability, dismisses their actions, or refuses to take responsibility for how they behave, the dynamic becomes toxic. Without accountability, it becomes impossible to resolve conflicts in a meaningful way. Without responsibility, the relationship becomes one-sided, with one partner constantly bearing the emotional load while the other remains detached. The absence of both accountability and responsibility can lead to feelings of betrayal, resentment, and frustration. In contrast, when both individuals in a relationship hold themselves accountable for their actions and responsibilities, the relationship can thrive. Problems are addressed openly, mistakes are acknowledged, and there is a willingness to make amends and grow. Responsibility in relationships also means contributing to the well-being of the other person, whether it's through emotional support, mutual respect, or shared obligations. Accountability fosters transparency, while responsibility ensures that actions align with shared values and goals. Beyond personal relationships, accountability and responsibility are essential in professional settings as well. A leader, for instance, who fails to be accountable for their decisions, whether in success or failure, creates an environment of uncertainty and mistrust. Likewise, in the workplace, everyone has a responsibility to contribute to the team, meet their commitments, and fulfill their duties. Without individual responsibility, the group dynamic suffers and the results become less cohesive and less effective. Accountability in the workplace also means owning up to mistakes, addressing shortcomings, and striving to improve performance. Accountability and responsibility are vital when it comes to personal growth. To grow as individuals, we must be willing to accept full responsibility for our lives. This includes our successes, failures, choices, and the consequences of those choices. We cannot blame external circumstances, other people, or fate for where we are in life. Accepting responsibility means acknowledging that our life's trajectory is largely shaped by our actions, and if we want to change something, we must change our behavior and choices. This level of personal accountability is not a sign of self-blame, but of empowerment. It opens the door to self-improvement because once we accept responsibility, we are free to make better decisions and shape the future we desire. One of the greatest obstacles people face in taking accountability is the fear of judgment or rejection. It is natural to want to avoid criticism, but avoiding accountability only keeps us stuck in unhealthy patterns. When we accept responsibility, we not only give ourselves permission to change, but we also set an example for others. By showing that we are willing to be honest, face our mistakes, and make things right, we encourage others to do the same. In this way, accountability fosters an environment of mutual respect and growth. Accountability and responsibility are indispensable for personal growth, strong relationships, and effective leadership. They go hand in hand, demanding that we recognize the power we have over our actions and our impact on others. Accountability allows us to own our mistakes and grow from them, while responsibility empowers us to live purposefully, proactively addressing the needs of ourselves and others. When we embrace both principles, we create lives and relationships that are grounded in integrity, trust, and respect. We become the architects of our own lives, shaping our present and future with intention and care. Integrity is the foundation of trust, respect, and authenticity in both personal and professional life. It involves consistently adhering to moral and ethical principles, even when no one is watching. People with integrity are honest, transparent, and dependable, and they do not compromise their values for convenience or gain. Integrity is crucial because it builds trust. When others know that you will always do the right thing, even when it's difficult, they feel confident in their relationship with you. This trust strengthens connections, fosters cooperation, and encourages others to act with the same ethical standards. In contrast, lacking integrity erodes relationships and undermines credibility. Integrity is essential for self-respect and inner peace. When you act with integrity, you align your actions with your values, which leads to a sense of fulfillment and purpose. On the other hand, dishonesty or compromising your principles can lead to guilt, shame, and inner conflict. In both personal growth and leadership, integrity serves as a guiding principle. It enables individuals to make decisions that are not only morally sound but also conducive to long-term success. Ultimately, integrity shapes a person's character and defines their legacy, making it a vital aspect of living a meaningful and effective life. Expectations versus reality is a common theme in life, reflecting the difference between how we anticipate things will unfold and how they actually do. Expectations are often shaped by our desires, societal influences, and past experiences, creating a mental image of how situations, relationships, or outcomes should look. Reality, on the other hand, is the truth of the situation, the actual circumstances, challenges, and surprises that occur in real life, which rarely align perfectly with our expectations. This mismatch can lead to disappointment, frustration, or even a sense of failure, especially when our expectations are unrealistic or based on idealized versions of the future. However, the gap between expectations and reality also offers valuable opportunities for growth. It teaches us resilience, adaptability, and the importance of managing our expectations to better align with the unpredictable nature of life. Embracing the difference between expectations and reality is crucial for mental well-being. It involves accepting that things won't always go as planned, and that there's often beauty in the unexpected. By adjusting our expectations to be more flexible and grounded, we can better navigate life's challenges, find contentment in the present moment, and avoid unnecessary disappointment. Ultimately, the key is to balance hope and realism, while learning to adjust our expectations as we gain experience and insight. Empathy and emotional regulation are two interconnected skills that play a vital role in fostering healthy relationships and personal well-being. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, allowing us to connect on a deeper level and offer support. It enables us to see situations from another person's perspective, enhancing communication, compassion, and collaboration. Empathy strengthens social bonds, promotes understanding, and helps resolve conflicts effectively. Emotional regulation, on the other hand, is the ability to manage and control one's own emotional responses, particularly in challenging or stressful situations. It involves recognizing emotions as they arise, understanding their impact, and choosing how to respond in a way that is constructive rather than reactive. Emotional regulation helps maintain emotional balance, preventing impulsive reactions that can harm relationships or escalate conflicts. Together, empathy and emotional regulation create a harmonious balance in interactions. Empathy helps us understand the emotions of others, while emotional regulation ensures that we respond thoughtfully rather than being overwhelmed by our own emotions. Mastering both skills leads to better communication, stronger relationships, and greater emotional resilience, enabling individuals to navigate complex social and emotional landscapes with greater ease and maturity. The dangers of dependency lie in the loss of personal autonomy, self-esteem, and the ability to navigate life independently. When we become overly dependent on others for emotional support, decision-making, or validation, we risk compromising our own sense of identity and worth. Dependency can create imbalances in relationships where one person feels burdened by the responsibility of meeting the other's needs, leading to resentment or burnout. Dependency can prevent personal growth, as it discourages individuals from developing their own coping mechanisms, problem-solving skills, and resilience. It can also make it difficult to form healthy, equal partnerships, as one person may become over-reliant, while the other assumes a caretaker role. In the long term, excessive dependency can undermine emotional well-being and self-confidence, leaving individuals vulnerable if their support system is unavailable or falters. Encouraging self-reliance and fostering healthy boundaries are essential for overcoming dependency, allowing individuals to thrive emotionally, personally, and within their relationships. Personal growth and reflection are essential for developing self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and the ability to navigate life's challenges with purpose. Personal growth involves the continuous process of learning, improving, and evolving as an individual. It encompasses developing new skills, expanding knowledge, and cultivating positive habits that align with one's values and aspirations. This growth allows individuals to build resilience, foster confidence, and create meaningful relationships. Reflection, on the other hand, is the practice of looking inward and evaluating one's thoughts, actions, and experiences. It involves taking time to understand personal strengths, areas for improvement, and the lessons learned from both successes and failures. Reflection provides clarity, helping individuals make intentional choices and better align their behaviors with their goals. Together, personal growth and reflection create a cycle of continuous improvement. Reflecting on experiences allows for insights that fuel growth, while growth opens the door for deeper reflection. This ongoing process enhances self-understanding, promotes emotional well-being, and empowers individuals to live more fulfilling and intentional lives.